All right, everybody, let's pick up where we left off. So in the other video, we went over how to do the first part of this worksheet. We inserted the screenshot, we figured out the altitude of Polaris, and so on. Now what we're going to do is the second part of this. So now it says altitude of noon sun. Change your location to Newburgh, New York. So I'm going to go to here, and this is Greenville, Texas. This is where we left off last time. But now I'm going to change it to Newburgh, New York, which is not far from here. And oops, hit enter. And now it gives me two options. I found that the up and down arrows make this a little bit easier. You can see like it's shaded light gray. I'm going to pick the first option, and that brings us right near Goshen. And that's pretty close to home. So I'm going to hit use this location. So now we're in Newburgh. It's nighttime the way I have it set right now, but let's follow the instructions. Use the date and time window, change the date and time to June 21st at noon. Now remember, June 21st is summer solstice, which we're rapidly approaching. It's coming up quick. So June 21st, 6:21, and noon, I'm going to have to go to 12 o'clock noon. There's 13:12. It's military time, but we're going to go to 12 o'clock. I wonder if I could just, let me do that. Okay, almost there. Okay, 12 o'clock noon. Time's going, and that's okay. I can even pause it if I wanted to. All right, and maybe I'll do that. There we go, 12 o'clock noon. It's paused, and now we can see the sky. Of course, it's daytime. Now, if we go back to the worksheet, it says click on the azimuthal grid. I have it up from before, but that's the same coordinate grid that we were using before. And it says zoom out a little bit so you can see the sun and the horizon. This is much easier to do with a mouse if you have the little wheel. It's a little harder to do with a touchpad. And one of the things that we'll notice is the sun is not in the northern half of the sky. And if I zoom out, you can see there's west, east, and south. So at 12 o'clock noon, the sun is here. Now, in one of the other activities that we did, we talked about solar noon. And solar noon would be when the sun is at its highest point in the sky. And we'll get back to that in a second. Okay, so let's do this. Let's fast forward time just a little bit and bring the sun to solar noon. So I'm going to increase time, and I'm going to get that sun lined up right with the middle. And what this shows is that at 12 o'clock noon, it might even go, yeah, there we go. At 12 o'clock noon, the sun isn't necessarily at its highest point. And on this day, on summer solstice, June 21st, the sun will actually be at its highest point in the sky at about 1:20. Right, so there it is at its highest point. We can see that the sun is in the southern half of the sky, right? Because there's east-west. We're looking to the south. And now it says use the azimuthal grid, determine the altitude of the sun above the horizon at noon, or I'm going to change this right now to say solar noon, June 21st. That represents the highest point in the sky that the sun will get. So remember, these are by 20s, so that's 20 degrees, 40 degrees, 60, that would be 80. So maybe a little over 70, like maybe 72 degrees. And you can figure that out for yourself. Will the sun ever be higher in the sky on this day in Newburgh, New York? let's change this to, I think I want to say then on this day in Newburgh, New York. This is the day of the calendar year where the sun is at its highest point. The sun will never be higher in the sky than it is on this day and time. And then for number 8, can you ever see the sun directly overhead at noon? Or I'll change that again to solar noon in Newburgh, New York. Well, the answer would be no. June 21st, this is the highest the sun will ever be where we live. That's not true of everywhere. It's true of this area. So you're always going to have a shadow where we live, because the only way you wouldn't have a shadow is if the sun is directly overhead at the zenith point. And on June 21st, that's the highest the sun is ever going to get where we live. It's never going to be above this point right here. So all other times of the year, the sun is going to be lower in the sky than it is on this day and time. In order to get it to be here at the zenith point, we have to be closer to the equator. So that covers 7 and 8. Now for number 9, you're basically going to do the same thing. Azimuth refers to compass direction, north, south, east, west, altitude of sun. So what I want you to do is go to these other cities, just like you did before. Azimuth of sun, what direction is the sun facing at solar noon? I'm going to change that too. And again, just like you might have encountered before, if you go to like Japan or Australia, it might be nighttime. You might have to change the time to get to that solar noon point. In some of these locations, because of time zones, when you travel to them, pretend to travel to them, it might be the middle of the night, and you might have to fast forward through time to get to that solar noon point. And then to get altitude of the sun above the horizon, you're going to do the same thing that we just did. Figure out how high the sun is for those locations. Okay, so that's essentially the same idea, just for different places. And again, you're going to have to change the time to get to that solar noon. Again, solar noon is when the sun is highest in the sky. The azimuth is the direction, is solar noon to the north, the south, the east, or the west. Okay, then now you're going to do the same thing, but now you're going to change the date to December 21st. So basically you're going to find solar noon for these different cities. Azimuth is the direction of the sun at solar noon, in this case anyway. The altitude of the sun above the horizon. So again, measure how high the sun is, but you're going to do it for a different day. We could do it right now for Newburgh and change it to December 21st. So now I'm going to go. You can see the sun's getting lower in the sky. It's fall now. It's October, November, December. So there's December 21st. Now we want to go back to solar noon. I'm past that because the days are shorter. And here we could see I want to get the sun right on the south line. So I'm going to go back in time and get that sun higher in the sky. And I want to get it lined up right on that south line. So I have to keep clicking. And again, if you're using the downloaded version, it's a little bit different, but the concepts are the same. And if you play around with it a little bit, you'll find it. So almost right at noon, 11:54 is solar noon, right in the middle. And we can see the sun is much, much lower in the sky. This is 20 degrees. Halfway between here would be 30. Maybe it's like around 33, 34 degrees above the horizon. So that's the concept there. So do this for December 21st. And then there are some questions to answer here. And you can, if you're not sure how to answer these, and I'm not going to give you all the answers, one of the things that you could do is try these things out. Actually try them in the program, and you've done them largely up here and in the other data tables. So if you look at the data tables and figure out, well, where are these places, you should be able to make these relationships and figure it out. Okay. So if you get stuck with anything, if you're having a hard time with anything or anything's confusing, and I'll just make a couple of corrections to this worksheet, like make that solar noon and so on. Let me know, and I'll try to walk you through it a little more. But hopefully the videos help, and I really want you to try to watch the video as you do this. I think you'll have more success that way. So let me know if you have any trouble.